pause whatever you're doing seriously, because what I'm about to reveal might be the most critical 4 minutes of health insight you encounter all year. And I'm not saying that for effect. I'm saying it because an overwhelming number of physicians, even specialists in cancer treatment, are still withholding this from patients over 50. Not out of ignorance, but because it isn't something they can prescribe or package. My name is Dr. William Lee. I'm a vascular biologist, a cancer researcher, and an author. For more than 25 years, I've been investigating what truly stops cancer before it begins, deep inside the cellular machinery of the body. And what emerged from that work, reinforced by a massive 2022 Harvard School of Public Health study tracking over 116,000 individuals across nearly 3 decades, is this. One specific group of everyday behaviors can lower total cancer risk in adults over 50 by as much as 61%. 61, not a drug, not a medical procedure, a way of living. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 most powerful elements of that system, starting with the least impactful and building toward the one that changes everything. By the time you finish watching, you'll know exactly what to begin doing the moment you wake up tomorrow. But let me give you a warning up front, because the number one habit on this list is being done incorrectly by nearly 90% of people over 60. And according to the data, correcting that single mistake could nearly cut cancer risk in half by itself. So don't jump ahead. Stay with me. The sequence matters. Each step amplifies the next. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something directly. Drop your age in the comments below. And tell me this. Has any doctor ever truly sat down with you and explained how to prevent cancer, not just how to find it? I read every comment, and what you share genuinely shapes what I expose next. So take a few seconds and answer honestly. Now, let's begin. Number 5, this is the one most people laugh off. Too basic, too obvious, too small to matter, and that dismissal may be costing lives. We're talking about cold water hydration, specifically drinking 16 to 20 ounces of cold or room temperature filtered water immediately after waking, before coffee, before breakfast, before your phone even lights up your face. Now, before you dismiss it, listen carefully, because the biology behind this is far more serious than it sounds. After age 55, your body begins to lose something called interoceptive thirst sensitivity. In plain terms, your brain becomes less reliable at signaling when you're dehydrated. A 2019 study from the University of Barcelona revealed that adults over 60 are consistently functioning at 8 to 12% below optimal hydration levels without even realizing it. And here's where it gets dangerous. Your lymphatic system, the body's internal waste removal network responsible for clearing damaged cells and DNA debris, depends almost entirely on water to function. When hydration drops, that system slows. Waste builds up, cellular damage lingers, inflammation quietly rises, and chronic inflammation is now recognized as one of the core triggers behind cancers like colorectal, bladder, and kidney. The Harvard Nurses' Health Study uncovered something striking. Women who consume more than 5 glasses of water daily had a 45% lower risk of colon cancer compared to those who drank 2 or fewer, 45% from water alone. And for aging bodies, the impact goes even deeper. Hydration plays a direct role in autophagy, the internal process where your cells clean and recycle damaged components before they turn dangerous. Think of it as a microscopic inspection system inside every cell. After 65, this process slows down by nearly 30%. But proper hydration has been shown to partially reactivate it. Here's how to do it correctly. Place a 20-ounce glass of filtered water by your bedside. The second you get up, drink all of it. No delay, no distractions. If you want to enhance it, add fresh lemon. Compounds in lemon peel, including D-limonene, have been linked to anti-tumor activity. We'll come back to that later. And here's where it becomes even more powerful. Combine that hydration with 10 minutes of light movement, even something as simple as walking around your home. Movement stimulates lymphatic circulation, boosting the body's cleansing efficiency by up to 40%, according to research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. That's number 5, and everything builds from here. But what you choose to build on top of that first ritual at breakfast can be even more potent. Now we move to number 4. Number 4 is a category of food that has quietly existed for centuries in the diets of the world's longest living communities, ignored for years by modern Western medicine, and is now backed by more than 200 peer-reviewed studies tied to cancer prevention. I'm talking about fermented foods, real ones. Naturally fermented choices like plain yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. In 2021, a landmark study from Stanford University School of Medicine, published in the journal Cell, revealed something striking. Adults who followed a diet rich in fiber and fermented foods experienced a significant increase in microbiome diversity, along with a measurable drop in 19 inflammatory proteins, several directly linked to cancer development. But here's where it becomes even more urgent for anyone over 50. After the age of 60, intestinal permeability begins to rise. In simple terms, your gut lining becomes more porous, a condition often referred to as leaky gut. This allows bacterial toxins known as lipopolysaccharides to slip into the bloodstream, triggering widespread inflammation that can act like fuel for precancerous cells. I once worked with a patient named Margaret. She was 67, living in Asheville, North Carolina. She came in with chronically high inflammation markers, constant fatigue, and a strong family history of colorectal cancer. On paper, her diet looked healthy, but there was one glaring omission: no fermented foods at all. We introduced just 2 servings a day, kefir in the morning, a small portion of sauerkraut with lunch. Within 90 days, her CRP levels, C-reactive protein, a key inflammation marker, fell by 38%. Her gastroenterologist was stunned. She told me it was the first time in years she actually felt like herself again. What's happening beneath the surface is driven by compounds called short-chain fatty acids, especially one called butyrate. This compound is produced when beneficial gut bacteria break down fiber. And butyrate does something extraordinary. It signals precancerous cells in the colon to undergo apoptosis. In other words, it tells them to shut down before they can become dangerous. Think of butyrate as a silent enforcer, removing threats before they ever get the chance to grow. The goal is simple: 1 to 2 servings of naturally fermented foods every day. Avoid pasteurized versions. The heat destroys the live cultures that make this work. Look for labels that clearly say, "Live in active cultures." And here's your amplification strategy. Combine fermented foods with prebiotic-rich ingredients: garlic, leeks, or slightly underripe bananas. These act as fuel for the beneficial bacteria, dramatically strengthening their impact. Number 4 is powerful, but number 3 is where things start to shift into something far more dramatic. And if this is opening your eyes so far, take a second to subscribe and like the video. I release evidence-based health content for people over 50 every week, and your support is what keeps this information coming. Now, number 3. This is something you've definitely heard before, but not like this. And almost no one is actually doing it in the way that unlocks its full protective effect. We're talking about walking, but not casual walking, metabolic walking. And the difference between the two could literally determine whether you're feeding cancer or starving it. Here's why. Your body relies on 2 main fuel systems: glucose and oxygen. Cancer cells, due to a metabolic flaw first identified by biochemist Otto Warburg in 1931 and confirmed repeatedly since, are heavily dependent on glucose. They struggle to efficiently use oxygen. So when you engage in sustained, moderate intensity movement, enough to raise your heart rate to around 55 to 70% of your maximum, you trigger 2 powerful effects at the same time. You reduce circulating glucose, effectively depriving cancer cells of their preferred energy source, and you saturate your tissues with oxygen-rich blood, creating an environment that actively resists cancer cell survival. A 2020 meta-analysis from the American Cancer Society, covering data from 1.4 million adults, found that consistent moderate activity was linked to a 42% lower risk of colon cancer, a 38% reduction in breast cancer, and a 27% drop in lung cancer risk, even among non-smokers. Those numbers are staggering. But here's where aging biology changes everything. After 65, your mitochondria, the energy engines inside your cells, decline in both number and efficiency by as much as 35%. This decline is now seen as a major driver of both aging and cancer progression. Metabolic walking is one of the few interventions proven to reverse part of that decline by stimulating mitochondrial biogenesis, literally signaling your body to produce new, healthy mitochondria. It's like installing a brand new energy system inside every cell. So what does metabolic walking actually look like? 30 to 45 minutes of continuous movement at a pace where you can still talk, but singing would feel difficult. Do this at least 5 days a week, and ideally, do it in the morning before your first full meal, because fasted movement intensifies the glucose-depleting effect. Let me tell you about Robert. He was 72, from Portland, Oregon, a retired teacher who came to me after a major scare. During a routine colonoscopy, doctors found and removed a precancerous polyp. He was shaken and completely inactive. We started simple, 35 minutes of walking every morning, 5 days a week, alongside a few dietary changes. 2 years later, his follow-up colonoscopy came back completely clear. Nothing. His oncologist pointed out his dramatically improved inflammation markers and described his recovery as exceptional. Robert told me something I've never forgotten. He said walking no longer felt like exercise. It felt like treatment. He wasn't exaggerating. It truly functions that way. To amplify the effect, combine your morning walk with the hydration habit from number 5. And if you can, step outside into natural light. Morning sunlight helps reset your circadian rhythm, which directly controls immune surveillance, your body's built-in system for detecting and eliminating cancer cells. Together, these habits don't just add up, they multiply each other's impact. Number 3 is powerful, but what comes next begins to cross into something far more transformative. Number 2 centers on something you consume, and the way it combats cancer after 50 is unlike almost anything documented in nutritional science. Let's get into it. Number 2 revolves around a compound, or more accurately, a family of compounds, found in a very specific group of vegetables. And the data behind how they fight cancer in adults over 50 is among the most compelling I've seen in over 2 decades of research. We're talking about sulforaphane. This is a potent bioactive compound found in cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and most powerfully, broccoli sprouts. Here's why this matters so deeply, especially as you age. In 2018, researchers at Johns Hopkins University, where much of the pioneering work on sulforaphane originated, published findings showing that this compound activates a master genetic regulator known as NRF2. Think of NRF2 as the chief defender of your DNA. When switched on, it triggers more than 200 protective genes responsible for detoxification, antioxidant defense, and most importantly, repairing damaged DNA before it mutates into cancer. Now here's the part most people never hear. NRF2 activity drops by nearly 40% between the ages of 50 and 70. Your body's internal repair system is slowly powering down. Sulforaphane doesn't just support it, it reactivates it. A major study from the University of Illinois found that regular intake of sulforaphane-rich foods was linked to a 52% lower risk of bladder cancer, a 41% reduction in prostate cancer, and measurable decreases in markers tied to breast and lung cancer. But what's even more striking comes from research at Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center. They found that sulforaphane directly targets cancer stem cells, the most dangerous cells of all. These are the cells that survive treatments, hide, and eventually cause cancer to return. If cancer were an army, these would be the commanders. Eliminate the soldiers and they regroup. Eliminate the commanders and the system collapses. Sulforaphane goes after the commanders. But here's where most people get it completely wrong. Sulforaphane isn't actually present in broccoli in its active form. It's created when you chop or chew the vegetable, triggering an enzyme called myrosinase. And here's the problem. Heat above 140 degrees Fahrenheit destroys that enzyme. Fully cooked broccoli delivers almost none of the active compound. The correct method is simple but critical. Chop or lightly crush your broccoli or sprouts, then let it sit for about 40 minutes before eating or lightly steaming. This allows the chemical reaction to fully activate. Then steam for no more than 3 to 4 minutes. Raw broccoli sprouts require no preparation and contain up to 50 times more sulforaphane per gram than mature broccoli. Aim for half a cup of raw sprouts daily, or 1 full cup of properly prepared broccoli. And here's the enhancement strategy that most people miss. Combine these vegetables with a small amount of raw mustard seed powder or raw radish. Both are naturally rich in active myrosinase. Adding them back to cooked cruciferous vegetables restores the enzyme activity lost during cooking, boosting sulforaphane availability by up to 4 times according to research from the Institute of Food Research in Norwich. That's number 2, and it's already powerful. But what comes next? The number 1 daily habit for cancer prevention after 50 is where everything converges. This is what the research has been quietly pointing toward all along. This is the one most people overlook. Number 1 is sleep, but not just sleep. what researchers now call oncological sleep architecture, the specific structure, timing, and depth of sleep that activates your body's most powerful anti-cancer defenses. And what happens when this system is disrupted is deeply concerning. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. During deep, slow-wave sleep, stages 3 and 4, your brain activates something called the glymphatic system. This system, only identified in 2013 by researchers at the University of Rochester, acts as a waste-clearing network, flushing out toxic proteins and cellular debris using cerebrospinal fluid. Think of it as a full system cleanse that only runs when everything else shuts down, but the connection to cancer goes far beyond the brain. During those same deep sleep phases, your body produces peak levels of melatonin. And melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. It is one of the most powerful natural antioxidants your body can produce. A comprehensive review published in the journal Cancer Research in 2021 found that melatonin actively suppresses tumor angiogenesis, the process by which cancers build new blood vessels to feed their growth. It also activates natural killer cells, the frontline defenders of your immune system, tasked specifically with identifying and destroying cancer cells before they can take hold. And here's the part that stops most people in their tracks. Melatonin production can drop by as much as 70% between the ages of 40 and 70. By the time many people reach 65, their nightly output is almost non-existent, which means your most powerful built-in anti-cancer defense is operating at a fraction of what it once was. In 2019, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified night shift work, because of how severely it disrupts sleep architecture, as a probable human carcinogen. Not just a risk factor, a carcinogen. The same classification given to certain industrial chemicals and pesticides. That's how serious poor sleep has become in the context of cancer. I once worked with a patient named Eleanor. She was 71, living in Scottsdale, Arizona, a retired nurse who had spent decades caring for others. But her own sleep had collapsed. She was averaging 5 to 6 hours a night, waking repeatedly. When we ran her immune panel, the results were alarming. Her natural killer cell activity, the very cells responsible for identifying and destroying cancer, was severely suppressed. So we implemented what I call a sleep recalibration protocol, a strict 10 p.m. bedtime, complete darkness, no ambient light at all, room temperature lowered to 67 degrees, all screens off at least 90 minutes before sleep, and at 8:00 p.m., a small serving of tart cherry juice to support natural melatonin production. Within 6 weeks, everything shifted. She was sleeping 7.5 hours consistently. At her 3-month follow-up, her natural killer cell count had increased by 47%. Her oncology team was stunned, and she told me something simple but powerful. She said she hadn't slept that deeply since her 40s. The data supports exactly what she experienced. Adults over 60 who consistently get between 7 and 8.5 hours of sleep inside a dark, cool environment show cancer mortality rates up to 48% lower than those sleeping fewer than 6 hours. That's according to a 20-year cohort study from the University of California, San Diego. This isn't a minor detail. This is the control switch. If you want to optimize sleep for cancer protection, there are non-negotiables. Set a fixed bedtime and wake time, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm doesn't pause just because it's Saturday. Eliminate light completely. Even small exposures can suppress melatonin. Keep your room between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And avoid eating within 3 hours of sleep, because digestion competes directly with the repair processes your body needs to prioritize overnight. Here's where the real power compounds. Pair your sleep routine with morning sunlight exposure from habit number 3. Morning light locks in your circadian rhythm and directly boosts melatonin production later that night. Together, these habits create an internal environment where cancer struggles to gain ground. Every study mentioned in this video is linked below. Read them. Bring them to your doctor. Ask the questions that time-constrained appointments rarely allow. But as we close, this is what matters most. You are not beyond prevention. Science doesn't draw a line at your age. Whether you're 55 or 85, whether cancer has touched your life or never crossed your mind, your body still holds an extraordinary ability to repair, defend, and regenerate if you give it the conditions it was built for. These 5 habits, morning hydration, fermented foods, metabolic walking, sulforaphane-rich vegetables, and restorative sleep, aren't extreme interventions. They are the baseline your biology expects. They cost almost nothing. They don't require a prescription. And every morning, you are given another chance to begin. Your independence, your energy, your ability to show up for the people who matter most. That's worth a walk, a glass of water, and a consistent bedtime. Don't accept the idea that it's too late. The evidence says otherwise, and so do I. If this helped you, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs it. Every week, we go this deep into the science of aging well, and your support keeps that mission alive. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 habits are you starting first? And what's been the biggest obstacle standing between you and better sleep? Drop your answer below. I read every single one.